Dolph Schayes with his two-hand chest shot that shot 38%. Great. You were awesome in the 50s, bro. You were awesome. Congrats. No shade.
And all I said was, we should absolutely celebrate the greatest players in every era. What they accomplished, who they were as players. We should celebrate that. But you can't tell me that, Dolph Schayes was a better basketball player than Tracy McGrady or Kyrie Irving or Klay Thompson or Dwight Howard. It's just, it's not based in any sort of fact.
Since JJ keeps talking about percentages, I did want to talk about a few things here. Right here, I have a chart that shows field goal percentage versus shot distance. And it's basically showing that the closer you get to the basket, especially under 5 feet, when you get at the rim, shooting percentages are between, 65 and 75%. And there is a steep curve downwards where you start getting even 5 feet out. And at least in the 2001 era, you're dipping below 40%. I mean, even in the 2018, 2019, you're right at about 40%. And this is going to get into my other points that I'll try to make about Dolph Schayes and Bob Cousy's era, the 1950s specifically. And some of this carries over into the 1960s as well, as basketball became more of an before entertainment started to be woven into the game more. Because in the 1950s, the NBA was still a little bit of a purist sport in that it was trying to strictly adhere to rules, and they weren't sure how to market the game as well as they grew to market the game over the years. And that included, relaxing on certain rule enforcements, changing rules, just to keep the game entertaining for the fans. So finishing at the rim, as you see these high percentage plays here, I suspect that in the 1950s, not only were rim percentages lower, but the number of times players took shots at the rim was also lower. And this is again due to those rules like offensive fouls being so strict in that era. Getting to the rim was not easy in that era.
Rivers had missed 1 3. And flipped it in and drew the foul. Tough take.
Made the shot at 16-11. Sam Jones going down the middle, an offensive foul. Frank Selby is guarding Havlicek. That's Ramsey going in. Another offensive foul charged to Ramsey. Jones. Heinsohn going in. An offensive foul charged to Heinsohn as he rammed into LaRusso, going in from the left side. Guarded by Wiley, feeds out to Heinsohn. LaRusso guarding him. And Tommy Heinsohn again is charged with an offensive foul.
From three-point range and onwards, you get more points per shot. So that is why everybody is spamming the three-point shot today. This did not exist in the 1950s. And therefore, everybody should be working the ball in close, as you can see right here. And by the way, this is only a modern metric. We actually don't know the points per shot versus distance metric for 1950s basketball. For all we know, this early spike here that's about almost 1.5 points per shot right at the rim, it might be down in the 50s. It might only be 1.2 points per shot in the 1950s, for all we know, because of other rules that were in place at the time, such as the sensitive charging calls. In the upper left-hand corner here, you're going to see a shot chart from the 1963 NBA Finals. This is from the Lakers side of things, and I want you to notice and remember that, shots at the rim are the highest percentage shots, at least according to the modern format of the game. And I want you to notice how few shots are at the rim. And I want you to remember all those offensive foul calls and how it basically shaped players to have to score on the baseline at the rim and come up with shots that were baseline at the rim, which again, if you remember, were around the 40% range for field goal percentage. In fact, all of these shots out here are 40% field goal type shots. And this is 1963. So everybody is shooting in the zone that even in modern basketball is 40%. It's about 40% out here. So why are we harping on these guys for their shooting ability when even today's players are also only shooting about 40% from this range, right? You know, and I think, again, the rules are playing a large part into why players aren't getting to the rim as often. Somebody like Bill Russell has no reason not to be getting at the rim all the time, and he shot 44% from the field. All right, so now let's look at, again, there's almost a complete game. It's like an 80% complete game of Dolph Schayes, and there's a couple of other game fragments that he played in. We're going to look at some of the violations that were committed on the floor from these games, and hopefully you guys will see a lot of these turnovers and violations are, you'd be pulling your hair out if you had to play basketball like this. I'm just trying to show how handcuffed these guys were. This is from actual Dolph Schayes game tape. Offensive charge. That's an offensive foul because he hit him with his shoulder. And he's off ball at this point, but they called it a charge. That's another charge. Right here, the shooter. No, I didn't quite catch his jersey number there to know who that shooter is. I believe it was one of the forwards on the Syracuse team. Richie Guerin, while on the run, draws a charge because the offhand, this is what I was talking about. Like Blake Griffin did this offhand over guys who were standing still in the paint. They were standing still, but he would dunk it. And there was no way those refs were going to blow that whistle. In this era, you could be on the run, and the defensive player's on the run. The defensive player is basically impeding your progress, and it's a turnover on you, and the ball goes the other way. That's a charge on you. This is whistled as traveling. Let's take a look. Catches. 1, 2. So 1, 2, pump fake, and then he goes up, and he's planted on 2 feet. So it's 1, 2, 3, and they call it traveling. He would definitely have gotten that third step or that third hop after the pump fake today. No way would that get called. And he'd be called for the foul as the guy's reaching across his shoulder. Okay, this play is just showing excessive contact by the defensive player into the back of the offensive player. And it is just whistled as out of bounds.
Too much for Looney. Goes through the steal and finish and the foul. You don't want to add that.
Richie Guerin's arm literally bounces off number 24's head as he's in his shooting motion. So that would be free throws today. It's just out of bounds back then. And a missed field goal. So again, we're talking about field goal percentages here, right? That's a missed field goal. Okay, that was whistled as charging. I believe they think he backed into Johnny Red Kerr there. Or is that Johnny Red Kerr? No, that's somebody else. That's a forward. Red Kerr standing on the other side. So they just whistled that as an offensive foul because he jumped into the defender. So definitely no jumping into your defenders to bait them back then, especially in the paint. Again, all these high percentage shots where they're getting in the paint, these are whistled as charges back then. No, this shot particularly won't count as a field goal that he missed, but how many times is he going to be like, okay, I can't get in there and take those shots. Let me settle for something that's one of these 40% shots or less that are out, in that mid-range. And there's no strong incentive to shoot from deep. So here's another one. Now I think he gets the ball. Oh yeah, he does by 22. He gets the ball poked out of his hands. Oh. He gets fouled here. But they call it a charge on him as he runs into Dolph Schayes. Dolph Schayes is moving his feet. Yeah, Dolph Schayes is moving his feet. And it's a charge on Richie Guerin. Outrageous. How are you supposed to get high percentage shots at the rim if every time you go into the rim, it's a charge? What is this one? Johnny Kerr taps it, does not have control yet, taps it, collects it, 1, 2, 3, shot. Traveling. 1, 2, 3. The third is a hop off of 2 steps, shot, traveling. They're not calling that today. Okay, here's another. So, dribble. 1. Let's see. They would count the gather like right here. Way back here, they would count the gather today. So 1, 1, 2, and then a pivot.
Just get back to a good percentage and be willing. That can unlock a lot. And he does work on it quite a bit, you know.
We'll listen to some other people talk about Dolph Schayes here. And this is why I don't particularly like JJ Redick's commentary on players that he really doesn't know much about that are historical basketball players, is he's basically opening the door for other journalists and analysts to start talking crap about players that played in the past that they know nothing about as well. I just don't think it's good form. I don't think it's good entertainment. Or certainly it's not quality entertainment. I'll just put it that way. These players are a lot better than these guys are about to give them credit for. So let's listen to their opinion.
Of course, JJ Redick sees Dolph Schayes and is like, that could have been me in very real terms had I existed in that era.
He's on my block, right? He's on my block.
There was a tweet of that. There was that 38%. There was a tweet of JJ's quote, and somebody followed it up with JJ doesn't want this smoke, and it's Dolph Schayes highlights, and it's just 20 footers with the entire arena just staring at him, nobody closing out, and it's just like swish, and he's like sweeping hook shots where you know he missed 5 of those right before that, but they caught the video on the one, and it's just like, man.
No, he's not missing a ton of. Again, the difference between Dolph Schayes shooting 38% and a player shooting, 48%, a modern field goal percentage, is the modern players are shooting 10 for 20. Dolph Schayes is shooting 8 for 20. He has modern NBA three-point range, even though there is no three-point shot. So again, with the points per shot not being inflated from that range like today, why is he even shooting that far out? I think because he, of very few players, when he shoots that far out, he's still shooting in that 40% ballpark. His percentage is 40%. I think he shoots 40% from anywhere on the floor. I think that's why he's able to stretch the floor like that. Again, players were not getting to the rim like they do today. All of his drives, he's not necessarily getting to the rim. I think I saw one backdoor play where he was at the rim. The rest of his shots that were counted as field goals or field goal attempts, they were runners from the baseline. I think Dolph Schayes shoots roughly 40% from anywhere on the floor. Therefore, players had to guard him from anywhere on the floor. That's why he was considered a sharpshooter in his time. You had to guard him way out, even though he's a power forward.